Good day everyone, my name is Shenben Maobazul and today I'll be going to discuss my understanding that covers the Philippine literature from the pre-colonial, Spanish colonial, and American period of literature. So without further ado, let's start with the pre-colonial period of literature. So during the pre-colonial period, as we all know, all of the literature are in purely Filipino origin. So even before we do really have our own literature, such as the presence of literary pieces that were transferred in traditional narrative speeches and songs, which includes the Tigmo in Cebuano, Bugtong in Tagalog, Patutotdon in Bicol, and Paktakon in Ilonggo. So the existence of these only means that Philippines were already rich into literature even before the colonization, particularly because folktales, epics, poems, and chants were already practiced in most of the ethno-linguistic groups, which were passed through oral or through the use of mouth. So, if you also go deeper, one of the known epic of the Ilocano is the Biyag ni Lamang that narrates the heroic adventures of Lamang, while other epic known to most Filipinos are the Ibalon of Bicol, Darangan of Muslim epic, Kundaman of Palawan, Daalim of Ifugao, Bantugan of Maranao, Hinilawod of Panay, and Tuaang of Manobos. So during the pre-colonial period, baybayin was the pre-colonial writing system in the Philippines. And of course, during those times, there is no such formal education. So they mostly write using stick and sharp stones as their pencil and leaves and stones as their paper. So with this, I could say that our ancestors may not be as knowledgeable compared to other foreign citizens, but still they are very much resourceful to use what they have in the surroundings in order to pass their own literature, as well as they had used their mouth to share what they have in mind in order to preserve these literatures such as Bugtong, Salawikain, Filipino epics, songs, and other more that we still do practice and preserve at present. That is why I'm very much happy and proud of my Filipino roots because our very own literature are truly worth reading for. Now, let's proceed to the Spanish period in 1521 to 1898. So the arrival of Magellan on March 6, 1521 was the start of the Spanish colonialism. During this time, folklore and other oral traditions was falsified as religion was the main focus. Filipinos are also called by two names. One is the Tagabayan or the Filipinos New Church and Tagabukid, those who are far from the Spanish power. The first three books in the Philippines during this period are the Doctrina Cristiana in 1593, a prayer book written in Spanish with Tagalog translation, the Passion or the Journey Suffering the Death of Jesus Christ that are read during Lent, and the Urbana at Feliza, which contains behavioral influence. While the religious literature during this period are the Passion or the Cenaculo, reenactment of the Passion of Christ, the Commedia that depicts European society, their love and fame, that depicts the battles between Christians and Moros. So those were the religious books being published. While the secular or non-religious literature are the Awit, tales of chivalry, example is the Florante at Laura, Corrido or metrical tale, prose narrative, teaches proper decorum. Example is the pagsusulatan ng dalawang binibini na sina Urbana at Feliza. There are also propaganda literature that take place in the form of editorials, news, articles, and others to attack the Spanish rule. Example were the composition of Jose Rizal, Marcelo H. del Pilar, and Gasciano Lopez Haina, just like the Fray Butod, which is to expose the greedy, ambitious, and immoral friar, as well as the Noli Me Tangere, which is to pave way to the revolution against Spain. Then revolutionary literature also arises, such as the El Filibusterismo of Rizal, which is to expose the church acquiring immense political power, the need to reform for education, the abuses of the friars, change acquiring men's political power, and corruption of officials. Despite also being deprived to write, Filipinos still work to release publications, such as the Publications, an independent newspaper founded and edited by General Antonio Luna, La Republica or La República Filipina or the Philippine Republic, a private newspaper edited by Pedro Paterno, La Libertad, Liberty, a private newspaper edited by Clemente Zulueta. So honestly, the Spanish colonial period still influenced Filipinos to be educated, and one of the positive influences that they have impacted us is Christianity. However, it is just sad to say that most of the literatures during this period were ought to be negative because they mostly depicts the cruelty and injustices of the Spaniards towards the Filipinos. Now let's proceed to the American period, which is in 1898 to 1941. As we know, during the American rule, unlike the Spaniards, the American had let the Filipinos to write in any form of language they wanted to use. So the Philippine literature expanded during this period as Filipino writers were also given the chance to explore their writing skills as they have the freedom to do so. That is why literatures like news, reporting, poetry, stories, plays, essays, and novels were being honed in practice. And most of the writings were now depicts their love for their country and their longing for independence. So with the freedom that the Filipinos got, they established various newspapers such as the El Grito del Pueblo, or the Call of Nation, El Noida Dia, the New Day, El Renacimiento, their birth. But somehow, what is sad is that there are plays written by Filipino writers such as The Kahapon, Ngayon at Bukas, Tanika Lang Ginto, Malaya, and other more that are being stopped by the Americans due to its strong theme of nationalism. During the first year of American period, since Filipinos were already in use with the Spanish language and Tagalog language, in terms of writing, the Tagalog and the Spanish language is what the Filipinos use in writing. But in 1910, Filipinos started to write with the use of English towards literature. Hence, Tagalog, Spanish, and English became the medium of Filipino writings during this period. Due also to the freedom that the writers have received during these times, writers like Cecilio Apostol had wrote poems which are dedicated to Rizal. This is entitled Al Heroes Nacional, or To the National Hero. So truly, with the American period, knowledge of Filipinos towards writing literary works were more enhanced and developed, which broadened their understanding and honed their skills in the art of written text. Furthermore, Filipino literature evolved more as the American colonial period influenced the writings of the Filipinos. So, to sum up everything, indeed, the pre-colonial period that focuses on the usage of Tagalog and other Filipino dialect in writing was truly the period of what we called the purely Filipino literature. Then, when the Spanish came and colonized the Philippines for 333 years, they had contributed for the education system, but aside from that, they had also dominated the use of Spanish language in any forms of writing, which also forced the Filipinos to be deprived to write even in their own dialects. And somehow, religious writing were mostly encouraged, and due to the Spanish injustices, Filipinos were also ignited to write in the Spanish language, such as the novels of Rizal, in order to expose the Spaniards' injustices and greed. Then after which, during the U.S. period here in the Philippines, education system were more improved. The literature of the Philippines became enriched as they now gave the freedom for Filipinos to write, which results for them to expand their knowledge in writing text in form of essay, report, novels, publications, and other more. So in this period, not only the Tagalog, or what we call now as Filipino language, and Spanish were being used as a medium of writings, but Filipinos were also influenced to write in the English language. That is why the American period brought diverse Filipino writers, as well as many other styles of literary works wrote by inspired Filipinos. Those were the evolution of Philippine literature from the pre-colonial, Spanish period up to the American period of colonialism. That's the end of my explanation, and again, this is Shen Bermajo Basil, and thank you very much for watching and for listening. God bless!